Hey guys, Julian here from synthwavepro.com. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. So in this Synthwave tutorial, let's make use of Ableton Live's stock delay plugins, as well as creative routing configurations to add width to our melodic instrument. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can later reference this tutorial, as we'll be covering a lot of information. Also, if you wish to support the channel, please check out some of the links in the description. Now, without further ado, let's get started. All right, so thanks for joining me. So in this tutorial, let's see how we can incorporate a delay plugin, a stock Ableton delay plugin, and some creative routing techniques just to make this melodic line sound a little more interesting. So let's play the excerpt and we can dive in deeper. All right, fairly straightforward. Let's focus our attention on this melodic line. This is what it sounds like when it is in solo. All right, nothing too interesting. In fact, there's not too much going on. We don't have any reverb or delays or anything like that. One thing we can do just to start off is to add a delay plugin on this instrumental channel, reduce the dry wet to something conservative, as well as the feedback. And we can have this sort of 2 to 4 configuration on the left and right channel respectively. Let's play and hear what this sounds like. All right, so we're getting a little more life, sounds a lot more exciting, but I want to show you another way of doing this that can offer way more creativity. So I'm going to delete this plugin here, and before following this tutorial, if you follow along, please go ahead and do so, but you want to make sure that you have a limiter on your master channel right over here. So we're going to be experimenting with some delay feedback, and this can sometimes cause some feedback loops, and so we don't want to ruin our ears and ruin our audio equipment. All right, so right off the rip, I am adding a limiter on the master channel right over here. First things first, let's go ahead and create a return channel. This I will call delay left. I'll do the same thing. I'll create a second channel. This time I will call this delay R for right. Let's do some color coding here. I'll just toggle over to the session view here. Keep these guys purple, if you will. And then same thing, I'm going to introduce a limiter for delay left as well as delay right. All right, so let's focus on this delay left return channel. The next plugin I want to introduce to my chain would be the delay. I'm going to set it before the limiter here. I'm going to set it to 2, set the feedback to 0, and the dry wet can remain at 100%. I'm also going to filter out some of those copies of those delays so that we don't have any lows and some highs. It's essentially a bandpass filter. All right, I'm going to copy and paste the same plugin right here on my second channel and slide it right before the limiter. Okay, so this is what we have going on here. Once we introduce some of that signal from our main instrument to delay 1, this is what this sounds like. Let me exaggerate it so you can hear it. Okay, I'm going to scale this back a little. All right, so that sounds pretty cool, something very basic. If we want to make things a little more interesting, we can pan this to the left. Let me crank this up so we can hear it. All right, easy peasy. Now to make things a little more interesting, we can engage this second send here, send B, and send some of this signal to our second delay right plugin. And of course, we can also pan this to the right. All right, so this isn't bad, but here's another way of doing this. Let's disable or set this second send to 0 and then focus on creating this cool feedback loop. So what we want to do here with our first return channel here is engage the second send by right-clicking and selecting enable send. Now we're going to send some of this signal to this second return channel here. All right, so let me disable this instrument here and focus on soloing return channel A and B. All right, so we can hear it on the left and on the right channel. All right, so far so good. Let's see if we can widen the stereo field. Right now we have this set to roughly 33L, and this one on the right is at 23R. I want this to be a hard pan to the left, essentially 50L, and I like this to be 50R. So let's see what happens once we do this. All right, looks like we completely lost our right channel. So what's going on here? Well, the signal is coming out of this return channel number 1 via the send B control here, but it's not making its way to this second return channel. So one thing we can do to mitigate this is to shift from post to pre-fader. There we go. So what's happening is that this second return channel is listening to this first return channel, and it's grabbing the signal before it exits the fader, okay? So it's independent of the pan pot. Now we have the control of setting our second signal anywhere in the stereo field. Before, no signal comes through, only if we have it set to the middle of the stereo field. And as soon as we do this to the right, hard right, it disappears. So remember to set this to pre-fader, and now we have both. So these are some really creative options that we can work with when it comes to mixing our song. If we want our sound to sound super wide, we can set it like this, or something a little more narrow, we can set it like this. All right, so I'm going to keep it hard left and hard right and keep it moving. So let's play it for context with all the other instruments. All right, so far so good. We still haven't created this feedback loop, right? So the signal flow so far is that we are coming out of this instrument, this main instrument here. The first send is engaged, the signal passes through to return channel number 1, and then we're taking some of that signal, feeding it to our second return channel, having it pan to the right, and it pretty much stops there. Now to create this loop, what we want to do is kind of do the same thing we've done here. This time on our second return channel, that would be delay right, we're going to right click on the first send, click on enable, and then this will in turn send some of that signal to this return channel. So let's go ahead and solo our melodic instrument here. In fact, let me play one note at a time. It's just easier to hear those delayed copies. All right, so the signal is first heard on the left channel, then quickly we hear it on the right, but we're not hearing that sort of return of the return, if you will. So we need to enable the pre-fader option here. There we go. All right, so I'm going to lower the volume of our main send here. It doesn't have to be this loud. And you can hear we're getting that third sort of reiteration of the delays, right? Let me exaggerate it so you can hear it even more. There we go. So it's almost like this endless loop. Now we don't want to overdo it, so let's just drive this down a little more. All right, I don't want all of this delay, so I'm just gonna scale this back. This is on our main instrument here. So you can see that those delays are coming in a little quieter than our main dry signal. Let's play it in context. All right, let's do some A-Bing here. Feel free to use third-party delay plugins, especially those that feature built-in EQs and saturators. All right, the fun doesn't end here. There's a lot more we can do. Now, the whole reason we did this is because we want to be a little more creative when it comes to our mixing, right? So let's focus our attention on return number 1. Now for this return left channel, I want to process the delays a little different. So what we're going to do here is introduce an overdrive plugin here, slide it right after the delay. Now don't play it just yet, because this is where that feedback problem will blow out our ears. So I'm just going to lower this to really low values. I'm going to start off at maybe 3. I'm going to solo the return channel, bump up the dry wet a little. I'm going to set the dynamics to 100%. Now let me bump this up so we get to hear what it's doing to the signal. It's making it a whole lot crunchier. And so this is what we're introducing to our signal. Now I don't want this much. I'm actually going to bump up the drive and focus on the tone control here. So it's essentially dirtying up this sound, right? Let's do some A-Bing. Cool. Now we're not doing any volume matching here, but this is something we should take note of. So the next thing I want to do here is do a little more cutting here. I don't want all of these lower frequencies in this delayed signal. Stuff around here. We don't need all of this. All right, again, a sort of bandpass filter. So without these two plugins, it sounds like this. All right, cool. Let's play it in context with the rest of our song. Cool. Let's not stop here. Let's go to our second return channel. That's delay R. And now we can process this any way we want. So again, this is where the fun really begins. We don't have to use the same plugins we have here over here. In fact, let's go ahead and create a whole rack of effects here, conducive to the sort of synthwave genre here. So one plugin I really enjoy using is the erosion tool here. And let's go ahead and introduce this right after our delay. I'm going to set this to wide noise and solo the second return channel. Bump up the amount. Now this is going to introduce some white noise. I should tell you what to listen for in case you haven't used this plugin. You're going to hear some white noise, some sort of distortion at the high end of the frequency spectrum. All right, you can hear that crunchiness. We can widen it. Maybe I don't want it that bright. Somewhere around here. So let's do some A-Bing here. Quite noisy, quite dirty. Let's play it in context with the other channel and of course the main one here. Alright, I think this is a little much, so I'm going to dial this back. There we go. Alright, so let's keep going. Let's focus on this second return channel. The next plugin I like to introduce is a saturator. So let's go ahead and bring one in. The stock one will be fine. And let's simply drive it and see what sounds we can come up with. All right, I'm going to scale this back a little. Maybe select a different algorithm. All right, this sounds good to me. Let's focus on another plugin. This one will be the frequency shifter, and we're gonna do a little bit of detuning. Now, I've mentioned this in a previous tutorial. I like to use some detuning tricks here, and this is exactly what we have going on here. So for this one, what I wanna do is simply detune this signal. Now, not too much, because you can overdo it and then it's no longer usable. So I'll have to use values that I'm going to input. So I'm going to put it at 0.30, and maybe I'll bump up the fine control here. Now I'll play it in context with our first one here so you can hear that we are in fact detuning it. Cool, let's see if we can push it a little more. Let's play it in context with our main instrument. All right, let's do some EQing here. Add another bandpass to this second channel here. And let's play it in context now. Let's do some A-Bing. All right, so obviously we have some options here. We can keep it this wide, or we can sort of narrow it down a little more by bringing these return channels more towards the center. And we can also experiment with different values for this first send here. All right, easy peasy.
If you're new to the channel, thank you for hanging out, and consider subscribing to the channel, and also like the video if you found value in it. If you've been here since the very beginning, I thank you once more for your continued support. That being said, stay safe, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.